got this job. I'm driving by and they had this really nice sign mounted on the side of the building. And it has the phone number and it has all these lists of jobs, server, kitchen, all kinds of stuff. And that should have been my first warning, okay? Because who puts pays the money to have a really nice sign to hire people with, and it's mounted on the building like forever. That should have been the first clue. Um, but anyway, I had called the number a couple times in 2 weeks, and left a message. It went to an answering machine, and uh, one day I get a call from a lady, and I missed the call. They left a message for me. So then I called back in the evening, and they said, "Oh no, she's in the kitchen and cooking." And I was like, "Okay, never mind." So they're busy as heck. So when I left my work, listing stuff on the internet and all that, and shipping stuff out, it was about the perfect time for a restaurant to close. And I thought, well, I'll just go over there. Because one thing, if you're looking for a job in food and beverage, you don't want to go during their busiest times, like at lunch or dinner. You want to go in the dead times, you know. And closing would be a good opportune time because there would be a manager on shift. And if the owner was still there cooking in the kitchen, because it sounded to me like they were short of cooking staff or something, then be a good opportunity to catch them. So I drove over there and asked for a manager, and I waited probably about 20 minutes. Lady came out. She had blue hair. I mean, like indigo blue hair, tattoos on her and stuff, and older lady, and um, she was straight to the point, very business. And she said, "Well, I really don't need anybody right now." And see, that doesn't make any sense right off the top because they got that sign out there. You would think they take the sign down after they hire people, right? Well, I don't think that sign ever comes down. But anyway, so uh, I said, "All right, well, I can do banquet special events. If you're short, just call me." So, uh, I was working Spirit Halloween at that time, and so I wanted to leave there, and if I could lock onto a job, successfully, then I could quit that job and move on because I was so scared I wasn't going to get paid for about a month. And I'm not working for anybody and waiting a month for my pay. I'm just not. That's the whole idea of working is to, pay your bills and support yourself. Is not to sit there and put out your time and hours to a place that's not going to pay you for a month. So anyway, uh, she says, "Well, I really don't need anybody." I said, "Well, okay." I start walking out the door. She says, "Wait, let me get your information." Woo, excuse me. I must have got too cold last night. And I said, "Sure." So she got my name and number. Didn't fill out an application or anything. And I said, "Thank you for your time," and went on. Well, then, she had called me one day and she says, "Can you come in?" I said, "Sure." And hello, hello, how are you? And so I went in and she says, I need you to help me in the kitchen. I said, okay. I'm not a chef though. I don't cook. And I mean, I can, I know how, but I don't want to do it. So I'm not trained, you know. But anyway, so um, she says, well, come on. And my hair's down to my butt. I said, well, wait a minute. Let me, you know, put my hair up before I go back there. She goes, yeah, good idea. And so I'm trying to put my hair up, and I'm like, oh man. So I turn around, and there's these little wooden toothpick things that you would use for like a steak, and they were in a cup on the counter. So I grabbed two, and the guy that's like the kitchen manager, he just smiled and he laughed, and I stuck the two up in my hair and my bun to hold it together, and I turned around and washed my hands, and this place has like sinks all over this kitchen. It's really neat, and I washed my hands all the way up to my elbows, kind of thing, and ran back there, and she starts, calling it out, and so uh, anyway, uh, she says, uh, at the end of the shift, she's like, "Man, I really like you," and I'm like, "Well, I appreciate it," and honestly, that's the first time I ever did kitchen prep. So what I was doing, she was calling out the orders, and everybody's running and jumping at whatever station they're working, whether it be a chef or whatever, and they're, getting whatever's nearest to them. If she called out salad, whoever's next to salad grabs salad. It's just wherever you happen to be. That she called out the main course that chefs were, putting it on the grill. Um, she calls out, the pretzel, and so I turn to the side and there's pretzel, and you have to take that and put it in a broiler thing for so many minutes, and then you have to check it and make sure it's done, and then you put it in a plate thing and all that kind of deal. And so it's just like boom, 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 boom. And then she inspects all the food before it goes out, and she sends it all out together. And so anyway, and I mean, they don't do appetizers like appetizers. They send all this food out together, the appetizers and everything. And where I come from, you want to send the appetizers out first, before the meal. But anyway, so you're hopping. Well, when we talk pay, um, I worked for a couple days, and then we talked pay, and she said, "Well, training, I'll pay you at 14." And I said, "No," and because one, the job is so fast and hard, it's like playing in a baseball game. It was pretty incredible, and I'd never seen a kitchen operate like that. It's just outrageously incredible. And I mean, if you work 2 hours or 4 hours, you feel like you work 10, because it's so fast paced. You're boom, 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 boom. And so anyway, she was like, I start you out training at 14. And I said, training? I said, you said I was perfect. So obviously I know how to work the job. I'm thinking more like 16. So I figured that she would hit me at 15, and then we'd be square there, you know. But she didn't. She just was like, oh. So she committed to 16. And the first pay I got was at $16 an hour. So anyway, and it continued. So anyway, it was real convenient because you know, I could uh you know um, hopefully dump Spirit Halloween. And I was still looking for. I had already put in for another job. I had got hired at the Crab Trap, and I was going to work in a few days. And so through the weekend, I worked for her, And she's told me just, she'd send me text message, call every day. Can you come in tonight? Can you come in today? Can you come in ASAP? And I would just show up. And it was like everybody's clapping and cheering, and hey, Red, and you get the hugs from everybody, the whole crew. Just really neat. Um, and so, except for the wait staff, they were a whole different entity. Really strange. But, working back in the kitchen, you have to jack with them. So, but anyway, so um, it got to the point where I could just work whenever I felt like it. She just wanted me there all the time. And the problem she was having was the dishwasher's wife had cancer or something, so they were out of a dishwasher for a few weeks. Didn't know if he was coming back. Um, and the girl that was doing food prep kept calling in all the time, giving excuses like, well, my kids, I have to pick them up from the sitter, or I've got no babysitter, or whatever. And she was just always calling in. And so, it was real convenient for the owner and myself. You know, she's short, she'd send me a message, in the afternoon or the evening, can you come by? Can you work tonight? Sure love to have you. Da, 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 da. So it was really neat. So when I started Crab Trap, uh, within 24 hours, I had quit Spirit Halloween. I said, okay, we are so done because I had 3 jobs all at once. Okay. And so then I was down to the 2, which was super convenient because I could go from, Crab Trap, my priority job, and work, an hour or 2 at German's, or on my days off. Now, the first week I worked Crab Trap, I worked 6 days. And the first day I worked for Crab Trap, I worked 10 hours voluntarily now. I offered to stay after on my first shift, and they let me stay as long as I wanted. But yeah, so anyway, that post, what, any comment somebody wrote. Yeah, I did. I posted that for legal reasons, because they're still going over the video and stuff. And the company, the security company, was going over the videos yesterday. It took them hours and hours and hours to upload all of the videos because they requested 4 different cameras, um, so they could see who that person was. Um, and there's a few things in life you don't say. I will kill you. I will beat your butt. Um, or I want to kill myself. Those are 3 really bad things to say in life. They will definitely get you in trouble. So that's why I posted that as legal proof. I believe that comment was since deleted. It may have been by one of my wrenches, or the person came back and deleted it. But I do also have sheriffs that watch my channel, local sheriffs. So it's proof in case anything does happen to me, or it could be the person that did it. Who knows? But they're still investigating all that right now, and we'll know more on Monday or Tuesday. So, because the videos need to be turned over to the state, is what they want to do. They're just trying to figure out who did that, if they rented there or just wandered in there, or what. They're trying to figure out, who the guy is, because you don't just go up to somebody's storage and like walk in it and friggin', whoop your weenie out. You know, it's just not cool. That's real creepy and stuff. And I mean, it could have gone really, really, really bad. But anyway, so I was going back and forth and between Germans and the Crab Trap, and it was really a neat deal because when I get off early at Crab Trap, because some days it sends you home early, in the first week. And when I was hired at Crab Trap, they told me, it's going to start getting really slow for winter. It just does here. And I'm like, well, Harbor Walk Village has held their own for the last 2 years during the pandemic. I don't know why you would be slower, especially when you don't have $20 parking. Um, and they're like, no, it just does here. So I don't know. Maybe it's just that place. They just don't do well every single winter, no matter what. So, at least they gave me fair warning. That was cool. And so anyway, um, I got sent home a couple hours early because they had like 3 or 4 hostesses. It was so stupid. No matter how busy it is, you don't need 3 or 4 hostesses. That's insane money to throw away. You're throwing away like, $50 an hour on hostesses. That's just stupid. And so they sent me home early, and I said, hell, I'll just pop over to German's. She'd already sent me some messages anyway. She was doing it every single day. Oh, could you please drop by? I need you for a few hours tonight. Would you be able to make it? And uh, and she did that like every day. And so you know, I popped on over there, still had my uniform on, went through the back door to the kitchen and said, do you need me? And she said, absolutely, can you work? I'm like, yeah, I just got off. I wish you'd quit that job over there. So she said that so many times. So anyway, your job changes no matter what you do there. And I noticed it with other people too. Even the chefs, sometimes, she'd say, okay, I want you to scoop out this stuff and put it, on a tray and do like 100 of them or something, and you'd see a chef over scooping some stuff out for about an hour, to her specifications. And she's real picky, really, really picky. You have to do it exactly the amount, exactly perfect, and all that. So you have to do it just how she says, or she's gonna just go crazy. you know. And so anyway, when you do the salads, you almost have to count the pieces of carrots and stuff like that. I mean, it's just really, really, really picky. And she's just trying to save on food costs. So anyway, uh, that was pretty incredible, and it got to the point where I just wanted to cry because one day I went in and was working around in the kitchen helping her because she was going to do a big banquet for a church, her and her husband, and it was like their first banquet for them, and they wanted, it was like 120 people, and they wanted to really put on a good impression, because her husband was telling me, he said, this is really good money. He said, I would love to do business with them again, and so I want to make it good. And I was like, oh yeah, because they'll pay one lump sum. They'll say, can you cater to our dinner or whatever, and all that church stuff. They write all that stuff off. So it's a real easy, 3 or 4 grand to, you know, cater or something like that. And so anyway, uh, Josh, the manager, had called me over to the other side of the kitchen. I thought he was trying to show me something or had another job for me to do. Because they do that. They have you do this, that, the other. So you just do what they say. Came over there, and the whole crew was leaning up against the prep table, including both owners, the husband and wife. And everybody was smiling. And I'm like, what is up with these people? Like, it's not my birthday. And the lady owner says, Red, I want you to come to work with me. Quit that other job. And I looked at her and I said, I was already hired. They gave me my schedule Friday. I contacted you 2 weeks ago twice. I even came in and talked to you. And you said you didn't need anybody. I said, I guess it's lucky you got my phone number and my name when I left. And she's like, no, I'm really serious. We really, all of us want you here. And everybody was like, yes, and I just wanted to cry. It was so sweet. And she said, I guarantee you work all year round. She says, we never get slow. And I was like, that was a wonderful thought, but I had already committed to somebody else. I didn't want to turn around, and and just turn around and bow out, you know. So that would be rude after all the paperwork, and that's a big thing today when you go get a job. They put stuff on the computer. You got to sign up for this pay thing, then you got to turn around and sign up for the schedule thing that's online, and all this kind of stuff. It's just really different nowadays when you get a job. So anyway, uh, they were kind of sad, you know, and she said we're getting ready for Oktoberfest pretty soon. Well, apparently they had an Oktoberfest scheduled that they promoted through Facebook. I don't know why people use trash like that, but anyway. Um, uh, and it was supposed to be paid for, I think, by a church or something, and or the aquarium thing paid for it at Boardwalk, but it was supposed to be done at the big aquarium thing over at the Boardwalk by the crab trap the first week of October, and because of the hurricane that came through, I think it was Ian or Ivan or something, they canceled it. So, ooh, thank you for the thumbs up. So, um, that was the next thing. One of the days I went to go work for her because she let me come in there anytime I wanted. I would just come after work if I felt like it, or on my day off. I would just show up, you know, day or night, whatever I was available. So you need me to work? Absolutely. Go out to my car, change clothes, write down my time, you know, and then go in and work, and then write down my time when I got off. So, and she would pay me every couple days, and so that was real cool because then I had liquid cash. You know, I had gas money. I had money to eat on if I needed it, or whatever. But I had revenue coming in without having to wait for payrolls because I was still concerned about Spirit Halloween. Once I quit that, I was hoping to get a check in about 24, 30, 36 hours, and it took over a month to get that money. And then my new job was paid every 2 weeks, but I was in the middle of a pay period or something like that. So I would see my money pretty soon, actually sooner than I thought when I got hired there. So that worked out really sweet. Plus, I had overtime, for the first week. I had one entire day that was all overtime. It was so cool. It was like they would work you to death if you would just stay, and that's my kind of job. But I make more money at the crab working overtime, you know, than I was making at Germans. So Germans was a cool side gig. And they weren't too far away from each other. The parking was problematic. They don't have very good parking there, not much, and it's real tight down in there. But I mean, it was okay, and I really loved the people I worked with. They were pretty neat, all of them, from the chefs to the manager, and she just adored me. And manager told me that people don't like working for her because they don't like her yelling, or they think she's bad or whatever. And she's just strictly business. That's all she is. It's and she's I mean she like I say she runs that thing like it's a pro baseball game. I mean it's boom 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 boom. So nothing wrong with that. I mean I thoroughly understood her. I didn't have any trouble working for her. Um, and I did all kinds of different things. I would do dish. Um, it was one of those jobs where anytime you see something needs to be done, you just go over and do it. You don't waste time, and that's probably why she liked me so much because there was dirty dishes, I run them through real quick. If there was no dishwasher, if um, you know they started pulling down the kitchen, I would run over and help pull all the stuff down in the kitchen. So they could get ready to clean because they did that every night. And then once a week on Sunday, I guess it was Sunday night, they tear just about the entire kitchen out, almost haul everything out of that place and wash it. I mean, it just you could do surgery in that kitchen. It was something. Never seen a kitchen like that in my life. I've been in many, 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 many back houses, dinner houses, and stuff, and I've never seen a place that clean. So very, very, very impressive. And but anyway, so uh, then she takes me out one day. She says, "We have to talk." So, oh, okay. I'm sitting there thinking, well, I guess I'm getting fired. But I don't care because I got my other job that pays really good. So, anyway, um, I go out back with her and we're talking. And she says, look, I've got Oktoberfest coming this week. And here it's like middle of October, right? And I'm like, okay. And she says, I really need you to work it. She says, but I want you to run food. Running food consists of delivering plates to customers, okay? Whether it be tray service or by hand. But anyway, this event was all pre-reserved and everything in advance, from what I was told by the manager, and they'd canceled it for the hurricane. So there was, over 100 people at least, and it was already prepaid, apparently prepaid by the aquarium place. So they hired her to do the food for the event. But I don't know if it was still being held at the aquarium place or if it was being held at a restaurant. I still don't know. But anyway, I'm still friends with some people who work there too. So anyway, she says, so I want you to be a food runner, and I will pay you $10 an hour plus 1%. And I said, well, what are you talking about? 1% of total sales, or 1% of servers' tips, or how does that go? She's like, 1%. And I'm like, 1% is $1 out of 100. I don't understand what you're talking about. And you got to make sure to get this stuff clear in advance, because it's going to go bad if you don't. So you got to make sure you totally understand where they're coming from and what the figures are. But I'd already decided, I'd already got my schedule the day before from Crab. And I'd already quit Spirit Halloween due to non-payment. Was priority number one. Second was the trashy crew I worked with. But so I could have committed right there, because she's like, as soon as you get your schedule from Crab, then I want to schedule you in. And I was like, I already had my schedule the day before, but I wasn't committing. When I'm getting paid $16 an hour by this chick, I'm not committing to $10 an hour plus 1% of waitress tips or house sales. I don't care. There's just no way. So I'm sitting there thinking, this isn't going to happen. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Drop in and they work me whenever I walk in the door. And it's a cool deal. I mean, you work an hour or 2, 3 hours after work until you get really beat tired, and then you just go, okay, forget it, I'm done. And you can clock out, And I told her up front, if I work after my other job, I'll work as long as I can for you till I'm just too tired, and then, I got to go. So I'm not staying for all the cleaning and all that. Can't guarantee that. Just depends how I feel. So she was cool with that. And the restaurant closed at 8 anyway, so, But, so anyway, I never signed up for the Oktoberfest thing. Never did. And so then I worked with her a couple more nights. She had already paid me because I had to pay. Let's see. No, I think the first paycheck was my storages. The second one was another pay, and then it's probably for my car insurance or something. And then I had 2 days that I worked for her, and I was running food, and doing dishes, and bussing tables, all together in the same nights. And so I was busting butt. I stayed busy. And when it come to payday, it took her forever to pay me because she was pissed off because I didn't commit to her Oktoberfest thing. And she sent me some kind of nasty messages like, I already got people to work it, so don't worry about it. I was waiting for you or something like that. And it was like, don't wait for me. And I told her, I said I wasn't going to work. After she sent me a real snotty message, I replied with, I was not going to work for $10 an hour. Yeah, for $10 an hour plus 1% tip. And then, I went to look up the state of Florida minimum wage, and the minimum wage is 11. It's like, dude, really? It just changed, like in the last, I don't know, I think September is when it changed. So, anyway, you know, she said, oh no, it was going to be, $11 an hour and 2% of sales. But I've already got somebody, and so don't worry about it. And then, the messages stopped. The messages and the calls stopped because she would text, call me constantly every day, 3 or 4 times a day. Can you be in at such and such? Are you working today at crap? So, like a week goes by. I figured, well, one of the chefs said, oh, she's pissed off because you didn't work her Oktoberfest. I said, well, not for $10 an hour and 1% sales. Tips from whatever sales, if it's the server sales or the house sales. Problem is, the servers don't tip over there. I only had one server ever tip me willingly. And I had discussed it with the owner. I said, there's something wrong with your servers. I said, they couldn't even work friggin' Waffle House. I told her to her face. I said, because they don't clean up after themselves when they take dishes to dish. They do not tip out when somebody's passing their tables or running food. And running food is also termed as expo. Expo. So she says, yeah, I know. I need to talk to him about all that. And, well, you know, it doesn't take a dummy to figure out. It's pretty standard at any restaurant. I don't care if you're working a Waffle House, Denny's, IHOP, or you're working fine dining with linen tablecloths and silver flatware. It's just the way it's done and been done for years. But it's a lot bigger now where, servers have to tip the bartender and the expo and the busboy nowadays. And it's just the way of the world. Because all these people are getting tipping wage, and when they're busting butt, they need to get paid for it. So that's why the restaurants tell them you have to do. It's just like being a stripper. You don't think you're going in there and going to make $5,000 and then walk out with it, because you're not. You're going to pay house. You're going to tip your favorite waitress. Depending on how the house runs and whatever the requirements are. You're going to tip the DJ. You always tip your manager. It's like buying into the service, or the platform. Trust me, tipping really does good. I had a DJ um, uh, put gas in my car one time that I used to tip for years fantastically. I had a manager that when I got to work, I had no money for food, um, uh, and stuff. And he turned around and ordered me food, and I was eating fine dining by 11:30 in the day. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. So you take care of the folks around you, and you'd be surprised how they'll take care of you later if you ever get in a bind. Don't expect it. It's just something that happens. We all take care of each other. It's a family, tipping family. So anyway, one of the chefs said, "Oh, she's pissed off at you because you didn't work her Oktoberfest." And I'm like, "Well, I wasn't committing to that." So anyway, I hadn't worked over there in probably about a week, and I sent her a message, when will I be able to get my pay? And I guess several hours after that, she'd sent a message. Several hours after that, or the next day or something, she sent me a message. You can come pick up your pay anytime or something. So I went by the restaurant, and she hands me some money. I go to my car, and I'm expecting, about $100, close to 100, or actually more, because I was supposed to be paid $16 an hour like all the other times I worked. Well, she turned around and paid me like $10 or $11 an hour for 2 days of work. And that's what it looked like. And I said, this pay is wrong. She says, no, because I paid you, you know, 10 or 11 an hour. And I'm like, why? You know, even at that, it's still wrong because her hours didn't match mine. And I sent her, description of the hours and dates, the 2 days. The hours were written down wrong, so I got shorted. So even at that rate, I was shorted too. So I lost out, like, if you're booking it at $10, $11 an hour, I think it was like $35 short. If you're booking it by other pay, it's way short. Okay, at 16 an hour was what we agreed on to begin with. I never agreed on any $10 or $11 an hour for nothing. So, and I was still doing virtually the same stuff all the time. But anyway, so I was really bummed, and she was like, "Oh, I'll check it tomorrow. I'll let you know." And I was still on the property. It was like I could have gone right back in there. She made a mistake. She could just hand me some money, and we're done, right? No. So the next day, she sends me a bunch of messages and says, "No, this is what you worked." And then she says, "And you owe me $3.77 or something." Because she claims she overpaid me on one of the shifts. Well, she overpaid me on one shift, $2. And when she comes to pay you, she's like, it could be a little more, it could be a little less, but there's your pay, you know. And just one time, she was over actually like $2. Man. A friend of mine goes, get 377 pennies and go take it to her in a bag and just set it on the counter. Yeah, so that was pretty bad. And here's a woman that every day was like, you got to quit that job. You got to quit that job. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. I mean, I was getting paid more by the hour over there. And um, it was a job with a schedule, you know. And all Germans was a side gig. Now, if it fell through, I was wide open to the option if possibly it fell through. It really got dry for the winter, like I was warned in advance of being hired. Then maybe I would quit, but I would probably just keep working 1 or 2 days a week for them as they were dry, and then just work the rest for Germans because it would have worked out fine. And the manager knew it Germans. I said, it just gets slower and slower, and they've warned me about that. So don't worry, I'll be here more and more. And he was like, yeah, we would love that. So anyway, it was really sad, but got shorted there. Was still waiting on my pay from Spirit Halloween. And that was just 100% living nightmare there. And so, and yes, that restaurant was so haunted. It was really wild. I laughed the first night I worked there and saw stuff happening right before my very eyes. And um, it's a funny place. The crew cheers with at the beginning of the shift with Jägermeister. Everybody gets a shot of Jägermeister, and then they all stand in a circle and they do this prayer for good business for the evening, and then they all cheers and drink this Jaeger. I'd never seen anything like that, and I don't drink, so thank God I was never invited to that. And Jaeger's like cough medicine. Oh, forget it. But yeah, it was definitely interesting. But so and then the manager he drank all night. He was always drinking that high-dollar German beer out of the cooler and stuff, and admitted it. He was a drunk. He's like, God, when I'm off work, I'm a drunk. I'm just a drunk. He says one of my biggest flaws, and I was like, wow. And such is life. Everybody has their thing. But he was a real nice guy. But he had come from Oklahoma, and I said, yeah, I lived there once, 100 years ago. It was definitely interesting. Something right out of the Twilight Zone. It was definitely odd. And it was extreme change because I come from California with the waves and the beach boys and drive to whatever. There's all kinds of stuff going on at all times and all the great clubs and all that stuff, and into just a dust bowl of nothing. And if you wanted to do anything, go anywhere, you had to drive an hour and a half to go to Tulsa because that was big city. What a strange experience. That's why you travel or go to see new things. Every place is different. People are raised different. Variety is the spice of life. You learn so much when you travel about and see the way others live, whether it's overseas or in the United States in a different state. It's definitely learning experience. So everything's different. I did find that, maybe, southeast from California, that people were much friendlier. They were more family kind of to you, you know. Um, you know, they want to be your brother, your sister, your cousin. They just love everybody. Where in California, a stranger's just a stranger, and anybody that says hello to you walking by is a freak. Where if anybody says hello to you walking by in the South is a very nice, proper individual, and you should respond. You know, so it's just different everywhere you go. But yeah, so that's how that went, and there were a couple. Let's see, what, three strikes of ghost while I was there. I just laughed because I don't mind them. And other employees were talking about stuff that happened. And I said, that's the ghost, because they couldn't explain what happened. I said, it's a ghost. I said, there's a history to this place. And actually, if you get deep enough into the internet, you can read a lot about this place. It's really quite interesting. And this place is related to a bunch of other buildings in the area that have actually been picked up and moved around. But the family were the Staffs, Staff, I guess, and uh, the father in that particular building, that restaurant. I'm gonna do a vlog about it too because it's really super neat. Some of the reading that I ran across the second time I researched it. It explains a lot why the weird things are going on in that restaurant. That building, well, the father had something to do with it, and his kids were competing in like swim teams and stuff like that. And he used to have all the awards and stuff. And I think it was actually on that wall behind the stoves. He had all the awards and everything hung in that building. And they're not there anymore, of course, unless they're upstairs or something. And there's a stairwell in the middle of this building, and it's blocked off. You can see it's blocked off. So it appears the stairwell is original to the building. It's real old. And they have all this stuff stacked up on the stairwell, like mannequins and weird stuff. And it's really creepy when they dim the lights in the front and you come out of the kitchen and get a Coke at the bar or something, and it's like barely lit. It is so spooky when you come out there, and your attention is immediately drawn to that weird stairwell with the mannequins on it. It's almost like it's like ghosts there or something. It's like really creepy. I'm telling you, and I would tell the kitchen folks, man, I'm like, I do not like going out there for any reason after they killed the lights. And so but there's so much stuff, doors opening and closing. Um, that's what the kitchen manager told me, and I said, yeah, that's probably the ghost. From cast iron pans flying off one by one above the stove on a shelf that's not loose, and has done it like three times, in the time that I worked there. And it was like the chef said, maybe the ghost doesn't like me, and that's why they do that. And I said, oh, probably not. I said they're looking for something, and I think what it is, I think it's the father, the deceased father ghost, that is looking for his kids' awards that he probably had on the wall right there where those stoves are, because there's two chef stoves against that wall. And I said, that's probably what's going on. He's disturbed and he's trying to find, all those awards and documents and stuff. And I said, I venture to say they were on that wall because the light shines in through the kitchen windows and hits the other wall. So it's very probable that wall is darker and doesn't get hit by sunlight to fade all the stuff. And that's probably where he put all the stuff. He was so proud of his kids and all their accomplishments. Because if you read on the internet, it tells all about that. The different things they did and their awards and all this stuff. And so the dad was like super proud of him. And there is a building that has been moved, and I was always wondering where that building came from. That originally was like a hotel and was down on the water under Brooks Bridge over there, apparently, at one point. And we're talking like way back to the 1800s or something like that. And then they moved it a few blocks, and I guess they moved it again over by Staff's. And then they picked that building up again when the people bought that property next to Staff's. And then I guess the word is that they own Staff's too, and they rent it to the German people. Um, that building is now at what they call the Y, which is over kind of by Circle K, and there's a secondhand store that's way overpriced over there with like a green sign. And there's a big white old, it looks like an old house. Well, that used to be the hotel, apparently. And I don't know how much of the original stuff is in there. There was some story about when they got that building that they supposedly purchased um, Mr. Staff's original desk and all kinds of stuff in some storage or something. And it turned out that no, they didn't purchase it, so the people wanted it back or some kind of crap. And there was a big deal about that. So I don't know if there's any memorabilia in that building. All I thought was they just opened that up to be some offices when they set that building down. Because I was like, I wonder if they're going to, rent rooms there or what they're going to do. And to me, it just looked like real estate brokerage office or something when they got done. And if you're ever in the area, you'll see it. It's why there. It's just a really, really old white wood building, 2 stories. I think it's 2 stories. And it's real pretty. I mean, I love it. And uh, I believe it's barn framing is the design. And which barn framing is when they take and they build all the levels on the ground, and then they lift the sides up and close it up, and then put a roof on the top. Um, that's barn framing. I had a house that was like 200 years old that was built barn framing style, and was 5 stories. And so they literally built it on the ground. They decided how big they were going to have it, and they built it on the ground, and they lift up the sides, and then they put the floors in and the roof in later. But they already decided how high they were going to have it and how many levels it was going to be. But that's how they built it back then. So that sounds like a lot of work, doesn't it? So anyway, I guess they figured they didn't want to build the roof, several times if they were going to make a building. So instead of do that, they would just figure out how big it was going to be and then go in and put the floors in to save money. I don't know. So anyway, yeah. So yes, it was truly, truly haunted, and I used to laugh and smile. This is so funny in some of the stories that people would say, and I said, no, the sucker is bad haunted. I said they had like 2 owners before these German people that come in, and they left it promptly. And I knew a few people, and they told me about some weird haunted stuff that happened, like really off the wall. And I'm like, oh, come on, you know. But, they swore by it. And it was pretty wild, like, a drink traveling from the bar across the room, just like somebody was carrying it, not throwing it, just carrying it. Just spooky crap. Um, and it wouldn't be the first, bar restaurant that I've heard of that was haunted like that. Um, I owned one that they said it was terrible haunted, and I never saw any haunted ever. But people told me about it, when the previous owners had it. And I was like, really? I'm thinking these guys are just all drunk all the time. I heard another haunted place. I think it was I couldn't see the comic, darn it. But yeah, there's a lot of them around, and some of them are just bull crap. They just, you'll see some stuff on YouTube, and people are just talking it up just to get views and likes or whatever. But there's some that's very true though. I mean, my friend Johnny Maples, he was into ghosts. Now, him and his mother were very religious. As a matter of fact, his mother was like she was a preacher, but I think they called her a deacon. And uh, super religious people. And, Johnny used to talk about ghosts and stuff. And he said, the thing about a ghost is, you welcome them or you don't. He said, but, they will always catch you at the corner of your eye. You can never look directly onto them. I'm like, really? How do you know? He's like, that's just the way it is. He said, you could see them, from the corner of the eye, and then when you look, they're gone. And I'm like, really? Yeah. He used to tell me all kinds of stuff. And I'd really believe that because I had some very interesting haunted stuff happen in one house that I purchased. Hell, my grandfather's house was haunted. Um, we had a haunted place that we lived in as kids when we lived in Palm Springs with my mom in an apartment building. That was really weird haunted place. That apartment. I'll never forget that. We were hanging Saint Christopher's over every doorway, man. I got that great idea. I'm like, what if we just hang Saint Christopher's crosses around or something? And because that was a spooky sucker there. But yeah, great area though. I loved living in Palm Springs, man. Jeez, what a cool place. Great walk to school. Right by the golf course. Lots of free golf balls. Um, and Sonny Bono, I think that's when Sonny Bono was mayor down there. Um, and that was like really cool because Sonny and Cher were like our heroes, or at least mine. That was a big thing. The Osmonds, Sonny and Cher, and the Cassidy kid, Cassidy's son that was in was it Partridge Family? Yeah, that one Partridge guy that made a couple records. Yeah, I think he just passed away, as a matter of fact. But oh yeah, that was like my hero, that Partridge guy. That song was it? I think I love you. I think that was like my total favorite song. I just thought he was the coolest. And today I go, oh my gosh. And that show was about as so goofy. And I liked Flying Nun too. That was like my ultimate favorite. And with the Latin guy in there, that was real dippy. That he was real neat. I loved the accent. That was a wild show too. And yeah, I like Superman and Batman, all that kind of crazy stuff. But anyway, but yeah, so that's how the German thing went down so far. So far, I haven't seen the rest of my money. She stopped sending me messages and calling me all the time. I think Cher married. Let me see if I can see this. It's so bright right now. Wow, I think Cher married. Oh, God, it's so hard to read comments on here. Mary Greg Allman. Oh, yeah, she had a kid by him, too. Yeah, they just, they really didn't get along. Cher did not want to be an entertainer for any reason whatsoever. He thought she was absolutely beautiful, and she was a bit younger than him. He sincerely wanted to marry her, and it was like back in the hippie era. And he thought she had a great voice. She had a very strange voice. No offense, Cher, I love you, man. You're like my total hero. I love all your work. But Cher, to me, growing up, was more like a trans. You would really swear that was a dude because Cher was really a big chick. And she was very flat chested and very, very thin. And especially like, in the 70s, she was ultra thin and she got thinner in the 80s. But she had a seriously alto voice, very seriously alto. where most girls had like soprano, first soprano, voices. Everybody sang high, you know. Um, you had that one girl, she's saying, "Loving you, it makes me feel so beautiful. Everything that you do," and all that. They were all very high soprano voices, you know, as I was growing up. You didn't have, I think, one of the old timey singers like Peggy Lee, she had a very low voice, Even Ella had a high voice. I mean, it just was strange to hear a woman with that low of a voice. It was like a man's voice. But that was just Cher. When Cher opened her mouth, it came out deep. So that was just a Cher thing. And people fell in love with it. I mean, it was just really a neat voice. And Sonny fell in love with it. And he thought she would just be a money maker. And Cher absolutely wanted nothing to do with it. I mean, he literally had to like push her out on stage. She hated it. She hated it. And then it was to the point of like dressing her up and putting wigs on her. And she had hair down to her butt, long Indian hair that was absolutely gorgeous. And she would wear all these different wigs and all these cool outfits. And then Bob Mackie started designing her clothes. I love Bob Mackie now. Bob Mackie's a seriously good designer, especially for show stage wear. Absolutely fabulous. Oh my gosh, talented designer. And she was just kind of before everybody's time. Um, and Sonny believed in her, and he knew it was going to be a money making effect. But I mean, you can read stuff about her and stuff, and she's like, I did not want to go on stage. I did not want to sing. Sonny literally pushed me out on the stage. And Sonny would get out there and try to sing with her, and Sonny couldn't sing a freaking note. Okay, I promise you, Sonny could not sing a note any more than Sinatra or any of these other guys singers. They just kind of talked it, you know, and that was just their style. They just talked it. They couldn't sing, and I mean Sinatra's my all-time favorite. That all he ever did was talk his music. He couldn't sing. So, um, it was real cute when the two were together and everybody fell in love with Sonny and Cher and all that. And Sonny just was kind of a dippo, on stage. And Cher was like constantly putting him down, but Cher was like that in real life. I actually attended a Sonny and Cher taping. Um, and with my dad and my baby sister years ago, the guy that had a boat next to us, Truck Crone, worked for Channel 7. And they were going to do some kind of Sonny and Cher comeback series thing. And Cher was a witch. I wanted to go and get her autograph because, Truck had given us the scripts, which I've had for years, which got stolen in the other storages. They're probably worth tons now. And I've had them, since way back. And I think it was the first or second show. And it failed. They ended up canceling it. Um, that show did air that I had the scripts for, but they ended up canceling that shortly thereafter. But I was dying to go have her autograph my script or something, and I was scared to even get near her. She was such a witch. All the time they were trying to tape and everything, and in between, I mean, she was just crappy to Sonny and nasty mouthed, and I'm like, God, what a witch! I thought she was so cool, and she was absolutely obnoxious. And I'm like, man, no wonder they divorced. They just don't even get along, you know. And yeah. And then it was so weird when her daughter went to Dude. Her daughter was so beautiful, so cute. Oh my gosh, Chastity, something like that. Oh, what a beautiful little kid who even appeared on the show several times. Absolutely gorgeous. And then years later, she decided to be a dude. I mean, that's her thing, but it just, it was just, and Sonny didn't like it at all. I think Sonny passed away right when she started deciding she was going to be a dude chick. Um, Sonny was not pleased with it from what I read. Um, and I don't blame him, man. God, you have a son to carry the name on in a family, and that's what you have it for. But um, when you have a girl that turns to dude, it's kind of different. But I mean, I'm cool with either way. It's her choice what she wanted to do. I just thought she was absolutely beautiful little girl and talented and sweet, and it just blew my mind that she made that change. I thought it was quite odd. Um, and they sure made it public, like the whole world did, you know. Um, but maybe Chastity had a low voice like her mother, because Sunny had kind of a high voice, but Cher Bono had a very, very low voice. I mean, you know, listen to her music. Even today, she's still performing. Her mother performs. Her mother, I think, is from Georgia, and her mother's actually a singer. And uh, amazing, amazing. But Cher had a beautiful Indian look to her. Oh my gosh! And then she started having a bunch of surgeries. I guess in the late '70s. All of a sudden, she wanted to get rid of that hook nose because she had a real serious hook nose. If you don't believe me, go back and look at pictures. I remember her when she sang that Indian song. I'm trying to think of what it was. It was like hair free, da 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 da, and the one where she would be sitting on a horse with a big headdress on and all that. That was a real big song about Indians, and um, she had a hook nose, and Cher's. God, it's so bright. I can't even see. I can't even see the comments because it's so bright. Darn it. I can't even click it. That's the bad thing about YouTube. It's so hard to see the comments. But anyway, so uh, she all of a sudden she got nose surgery to take the hook out. And that was just part of her. I went to school with a girl who kept talking about getting surgery, at 11 and 12. And her dad was very wealthy. And she's like, I can't wait. Janine Saba was her name. And she was like, I cannot wait to get my nose fixed. I'm like, you're 11 years old. She's like, oh, no, I really can't wait to get my nose fixed because I hate it. But she was, Jewish. It came with it. And who cared about the nose? You like the people for the way they are. I mean, she was a very beautiful person to me. And I'm not gay. But she really hated the damn nose. Um, and my friend Farrah Sarah that I used to dress, she used to always go on about her nose. I hate my nose. I said, you don't need to change it. You're beautiful like you are. I wouldn't worry about that because you're so absolutely beautiful. Naturally, before she had her surgeries, she never did get her nose done though. But she was naturally beautiful to begin with. But she didn't even need those surgeries. But but yeah, Cher when she got the nose surgery, then the next thing she got the boob surgery, and I don't know what else. And then she was doing a lot of face stuff for a while. Um, and it was kind of sad. It was like, now she doesn't even look like she used to look like. And I mean, today she's like, I think in her late 70s, like 77 or 78 or something. And she looks pretty smashing in most of the pictures. I don't know in real person if she's scary looking or not. One that looks scary is Julie Andrews. Gosh, she has her lips done or whatever. They look terrible. She looks very creaturistic. And just like the Polish prince, whatever his name is, that used to do all those Vegas shows all the time. I don't know if he's still in Vegas. He looks really strange with all these weird face surgeries. You can't even recognize him at all. The guy with the real thin mustache that always entertained in Las Vegas. Oh my gosh. Um, but yeah. So I don't know. But I mean, if you do surgery, do it for you. Don't do it for everybody else. If it's something that makes you happy, don't do it for money or anything else. Do it for you. 100%. Absolute 100%. I've seen dancers go, I'm going to get a boob job and I'm going to make $1 million. Well, I know boob jobbers that don't make $1 million and regret getting the surgery. Absolutely hate it. And they're like, I don't make any more money than I did, or they'll say I made less money than the way I looked before. And I'm like, really? After spending all that money and all that pain. So, but if you got to do surgery, don't do it because you think it's going to make you $1 billion and all that. You do it because it's for you. Because you really want to do it. Because you would really feel better having that surgery. It's the only reason you want to do that. So, yeah. But anyway, you guys, it's just been a slice of heaven. And oh my gosh, we've been on for what, an hour? Wow. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, Germans was fine, and I've had a couple people just in the last 24 hours go, "Aren't you still working at Germans?" And I'm like, "No." And it's kind of sad because it was really a convenient deal where I could just pop in and pop out, always welcome, everybody's sweet, lots of hugs, and I got paid often, and you know, they just love me. They just couldn't get enough of me. Um, and then it just kind of went kablooey. She shorted my freaking money. That broke my heart. And then trying to tell me I owe her $3.77, which is bull crap. Um, it's like, if you need it that bad, keep it. That's the way I feel. Just keep it. You're gonna so dare to short me when I told you and showed you proof. Um, yeah. Everybody says, "Oh, she's always drunk all the time when she's working." Well, I don't know. That's not really my business, and that may be why my hours are screwed up because she didn't write down the right stuff. Because the guy manager is always drunk too, and yeah. Cher's mom. Yeah, Cher's mom. That's a famous singer. If you look it up on the internet, she's like from Georgia, and I think her name is Georgia something. But she's a long time famous singer, and she sings good. I played a couple stuff they had on the internet of her. She sings good, and she's a beautiful blonde-headed lady, absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And her mom are good friends too. So her mom kind of pushed her into singing too, and Cher did not want to do it. But it's kind of a lot of people are. You find people on the street, and they're incredible entertainers, and that's how many do get discovered. Marilyn Monroe was discovered at a freaking hamburger bar, hamburger and shake bar in downtown LA. You know, Robin Williams was discovered by Johnny Carson on Venice Beach. I remember when Robin Williams used to stand out on the beach with a can and telling jokes and being silly. And we're like, this dude's on drugs because he was so raucously funny. Oh my gosh, just so funny. And Johnny Carson brought him on his show, like, I want you guys to see this guy, and Robin Williams just like takes over the whole show. It's just funny as hell. And but, that's where a lot of people started, was just on the street, and um, there was an old acid rock guitar player, black dude with big long braids, dreadlocks, whatever. He used to be down on the boardwalk in Venice playing electric guitar, and it was like, oh God, it's him again. And he'd be playing all that old Stairway to Heaven and all kinds of other crap. And he was a real famous guitar player and then died. And I'm like, I see that guy on the boardwalk all the time. I can't believe he was famous. He made me sick, man. I couldn't stand him. I couldn't wait to walk past him. It was like he was always like on the heroin or something, man. And it was like, oh no, it's that electric guitar player, gross. And he was very famous. Yep. Didn't even know it. Yep. Just walked by him as a kid. But yeah, so there's some great talents out there. You'd be surprised. I mean, it's very lucky. Cher's very lucky that Sonny promoted her like he did, because he totally believed her. And with that really low alto voice, she was definitely different as a girl. But um, I thought they were wonderful together. They were just the neatest. But it just didn't work out. And it was so sad when he died. Jesus. That was so damn pitiful. And then she puts out that song right after he died, and it was like, it sounded like she regretted leaving him. It really did. I thought, you can't turn back now, man. Joker's 6 foot under. Party's over. A little bit late. So, sometimes things just don't work out. But anyway, getting back to Germans and all that. Don't know what the future has to bring. Yes, it's an unfortunate thing. No, I don't like getting ripped off. And why would you even consider taking advantage of me like that? I didn't agree in having any of my pay reduced. I was hired at 16 an hour. That's what I should always be paid. She did make me an offer to go do her Oktoberfest thing for a week at $10 an hour plus 1%. And I didn't agree to it and never got scheduled for it. And that's the way it goes. I didn't opt in. So anyway, definitely interesting. But, and I love the people I worked with. Most all, everything, everybody in the back house was fabulous. That stuff on the front house was pretty trashy. So, yeah. Yep. But they had great menu, great food, very reasonable price. I think it's a bit cheap, but most of that stuff needs to be raised at least $3 or $5 a plate. And because you really get a huge amount of value with their food. Super clean house, very clean. Never seen one cleaner. I doubt they've ever violated with Board of Health ever. And but the word around from other restaurant owners and stuff is like they've never violated. We can't figure out why. Well, if you ever saw that kitchen, my God, literally you could conduct surgery there. No lie. I'm real clean. My utmost respect right there. But anyway, I'll tell you guys later about the crab. And I hope you have a great day. I love you. Thanks for coming by. And do some kind of a stranger, and I'll see you in the next one. That's what I'm talking about. Peace out.